black coffee.
This is the Kavoya Coffee Podcasting Network. Coffee people talking to coffee people about coffee and things coffee adjacent. This episode of Coffee Memo is brought to you by Kavoya Specialty Coffee, where coffee is always a collaborative voyage. Welcome to Coffee Memo with Rob Stephen, a podcast where we talk about coffee industry news and current affairs. This is episode 17, recorded in March of 2026, when Rob invited Mark Inman into the studio to talk about the future of coffee. So, Rob, there are two things about this episode that, although not unprecedented, are unusual. The first is the topic, given that we usually try and focus on news and current events, the here and now in the coffee industry. The topic for this episode, the future of coffee, could be considered unusual, but I would suggest that for you and me and other extraordinarily enlightened people, the future of coffee is something we think about often and is very much a current affair. The other thing that's unusual, though not unprecedented, for Coffee Memo is that we have a guest.
Yes. Well, the future is now. So that's the way we're going to look at it. So happy to have on the show today Mark Inman, who is our Director of Sales, Senior Trader, Eminence Grease of coffee, best dressed person in coffee, or one of the top three best dressed. I don't want to.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though we work together, Mark, you and I have been friends for almost 30 years.
Right.
And had at least 1,000 crazy conversations about coffee and where things are going and trends. And I'm right like 90% of the time and you're wrong 10% of the time.
Wait a minute.
Wait. So between the two of us, we'll get to 100.
Yeah.
But no, thanks for coming in.
Of course.
Looking forward to talking. I think that, you know, I made a joke at the beginning, but you have to look at the future as now when you're looking at anything that's happening in the coffee world is part of what is coming next. Right. You know, so if the market's on the way up or the market's on the way down, you have big moves geopolitically or supply chain wise, or you know, what I've always talked about on this show is let's look at what's happening now and think about how to plan for what's next. Mm-hmm. So we are always talking about the future of coffee. I think I keep my time horizon a little shorter, just because most people are working in a business cycle, but it's good to look at it even longer. So, I'll throw a general question at you, which is not something we've discussed, but there's a lot going on right now. We've got a war going on. We've got upcoming Brazil harvest. We've got an inverted market. We've got all sorts of things happening in the world with working capital and just the general uncertainty that always is in the coffee trade. Plus, you've got all these things going on with demand, different consolidations happening. You know, things are very sort of multivariate. So as you look at the coffee market in the, say, next 3 to 5 year horizon, what's your sentiment?
I think the coffee market is mirroring what's going on in the wine industry. As you know, we have an office in California steeped in the wine country, and wine brands are being challenged probably a little bit more intensely than we are right now, but we're heading in that direction. A shift in consumption patterns, loss of capital investment, agricultural advisors telling them to rip out thousands of acres of vineyards because demand's crashing. I don't think we have demand crashing here in the U.S., but for coffee, but wine certainly. And so I think that when you look at coffee, you know, the capital market has run away from it recently. It was very interested in coffee for many years and grabbing brands, sometimes overpaying because they were investing in the potential, not the actual state of the business. And coffee's not an interesting investment right now. It's a product that has tighter margins. It has too much competition. The kids these days are drinking coffee in different ways than you and I did when we were in our 20s. And so it's shifting right now. And until the dust settles, it's going to put the onus on the current business owners to be resilient and to roll with change and to be extremely resourceful to survive. It's going to be a tough couple of years ahead because there's not going to be these big nest eggs of money coming to help you. You're going to have to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, no, I remember when we were a wee bit younger, and
Right.
a lot of our contemporaries were building and then selling their businesses for big money, making them part
Yeah.
of the Pete's Group or the KGM Group or things like that. And that was always the dream, right?
Right.
You're going to sell your business, it's going to get gobbled up by one of the big brand accumulators, and you're going to make a bunch of money and roll off into the sunset. Doesn't seem like it's. As a matter of fact, it's going the opposite now, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of those brands are getting divested,
Yeah.
right? And so, what you mentioned farming, and how do you think this affects specialty producers?
I think coffee producers in general are facing a series of challenges. The main one is that the Brazilian model of a mechanized farming system is the winner. You have to move in that direction to survive. Labor in Central America is extremely challenging. A hand-picked crop is extremely expensive and labor-intensive. And I know that this isn't I don't want to make light of what I'm about to joke about, but there used to be the adage that with what's happening in the administration right now with mass deportations, what people are saying is these are pickers now coming back to their homeland. Before, when immigration was running amok and they said the borders are wide open, a lot of Central American businesses were saying we're losing our labor force, and they were.
Yeah.
Now that it's back, it's going to be prohibitively costly to pick coffee in certain circumstances. And because of the terrain of Central America, mechanization is going to be extremely challenging because you don't have the ability to just run harvesters unless you create one with one short wheel and one long wheel. So I think that's going to be tough. You have climate change, which is clearly affecting coffee right now, and weather patterns changing to where many coffee regions that are beloved by us are no longer going to be viable in the short future here. And then in some cases, like, when you and I first got into this, like Terrazoo coffees of Costa Rica, where Antigua, these were the hot origins. Well, those two regions in particular are more valuable as real estate than they are as agriculture. Yeah. So it's changing rapidly, and I think that the more people can strive to mimic the Brazil model, the better, the safer they're going to be. I think for specialty, ideally, coffee prices are – people always use this graph that they're flat. Like the price of coffee in this year was, 1980 was $2.19, and now it's $2.20. Well, you're not factoring in inflation.
Right.
It's actually going down. So as a business proposition, coffee farming is a horrible idea. And, what frustrates me as a coffee person and who got into it more as an activist, really, is that we've been saying since I've been in this industry, we've got to pay farmers more, pay them hard for their work. And it never happens.
Right.
Why? And honestly, if we were to resource farmers properly, the quality would jump through the roof. And then specialty would really command high prices because it would start to mimic high quality wine. Right now, I always get I feel like I have to correct a lot of younger coffee buyers when they have really high demands of farmers. Like, if this sample had a little more lemon note, I'd be interested. Or if it had a little more caramel note. And it's like, look what these farmers are dealing with. Look at their tools. Look at the training. Look at the investment opportunities. You're lucky you're getting anything out of these guys. They're producing art with very rudimentary tools, and you're expecting them to be like Picasso, and it's not going to happen without –
You're just looking for happy accidents at this point.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So of all of the segments of our industry right now, I think the farmers have it the toughest. I think roasters and retailers have it tough. It's relatively new tough, but there are still resources available to those two segments. Farmers are on their own. I mean, it's really sad. In the few countries that have like like the Federation and Anna Cafe and have formalized programs, they're there and they're helpful, but they're not as helpful as they need to be.
Yeah. So I have two small pushbacks on that. So
Please.
one of them is so we just had there's a little plug too. We just had our Grow conference in Mexico. They were talking about labor. Like, as a matter of fact, we ended up at a women's cooperative of farming in Chiapas. It's not just because they're forward thinking and progressive. It's also all the men are gone.
Right.
Right. Even in the town of San Cristobal de las Casas, which is a farming town, but it's still a town. It's got shops and restaurants and bars and hotels and all those things. There's a help wanted sign in every door.
Right.
Like, everybody's gone.
Right.
If you hear them talk about it, if you can't get into the U.S., there's plenty of other legitimate and illegitimate work just below the border.
Oh, of course.
Right. There's all sorts of – but in any case, farming is not interesting.
Right.
Right. And so whether they come back or not, farming will still remain uninteresting.
Yeah.
Right. So, and while at that show, we had Joel Schuler, who works at a company called Casa Brazil in Texas, really smart coffee guy. A lot of people know him. Gave a great presentation talking about this mechanization thing that you're talking about and like how we can't glorify this hand-picking thing anymore as romantic.
Right.
Because we're just forcing inefficiency on a market that desperately needs efficiency, right?
Yeah.
What we need to do is glorify the smarts behind, when a California winemaker makes a really great bottle of wine and drives a Range Rover, they get a lot of respect.
Right.
Right. It should be the same.
Right.
Right. The other part I was going to say was that money incentivizing quality, right? So we just spent a year at $3.50 to $4 market, right? Which probably made a slight down payment on the generational debt
Right.
at origin, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly commercial grade coffee was $4 a pound.
Right.
I actually don't think that incentivizes quality. I think what that basically says is given how inefficient specialty coffee is, if I can make 10 defect coffee and get paid $4 a pound,
Right.
rock and roll all day long.
Yeah.
You've got to be really, then you've got to start doubling prices to get to where you're incentivizing quality.
Well, which I argue we should be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, coffee realistically should be $10 a pound green.
Yeah.
For the specialty quality that people claim they want.
Right.
I was at a presentation in Colombia years ago where the Federation you were with me on this, where we went to different regions and we tasted the regions and visited farms, and then we came back and gave an assessment of what we saw and what we recommended to help producers. And one of the people that came down with us started giving this speech and said, what American buyers want is they want daily samples from harvesting sent to them.
I remember this.
Overnight. Yeah. And they want every cherry picked at a certain crimson color. And we want to buy coffee and have it stored down here at origin and shipped up as we need it, like kind of stacked up. And so you would hold these coffees for months on end and ship them as we need it. And this is an audience of people that are involved in the Colombian Coffee Federation taking notes to this. And when it came to be my turn in classic format that I do, I said, everything this person said, if they followed it up with, and I'm willing to pay you $20 a pound, absolutely makes sense. Given the current market prices, you will lose your farm if you follow this advice. It's horrible advice. It's not appropriate for where we are. And the comparison at the time that was being given by the speaker was wine harvesting. And I said, nobody is sitting there bricks testing every grape as they pick. They take a general assessment of the farm and they strip pick it.
I also believe one of the recommendations there was to replace Juan Valdez with Shakira.
Right. I forgot. That was the same person. Yeah. And which should have discounted everything that person said. But I do think that there are producers out there that are doing tippy top quality and getting astronomical prices. And there is a hunger in the market for that level of coffee. It's not as big as people are making it out to be, but there is a more demand than there is supply of that particular coffee. But to get there requires a significant amount of education and a significant amount of resources, and it just does not exist. Now, the model I compared to coming from the wine industry is the relationship between the winemaker and the vineyard, the winery and the vineyard. Usually, like if if I'm buying Ferguson vineyards, for my label, I'm going to have that vineyard on my bottle for multiple years in a row. So I contract my grapes with Mike Ferguson, and Mike says, hey, to make this happen, I need to invest in some, other equipment, some crushers. I need to get, different tractors. And the winery says, okay, I'm going to pony up the money because it's going to get the quality I need. And then over time, I'll take that off the price of the grapes. We spread it out. We're not doing that. The roasters aren't getting involved in the partnerships with farmers to that level. To me, that's relationship. The relationship model in coffee is you're actually putting your money where your mouth is, and you're investing in your supplier that ideally you want a long-term relationship with. And I think that is necessary for us to get to that level of quality that we're talking about. But yes, aside from that, you're absolutely correct. At a $4 market, selling 12 defect coffee all day long and cashing that check makes absolute sense. We have given no other reason why any other model would work right now.
Yeah, and I think absent a coalescing force to make what you're talking about a reality where people can do that kind of group investment. At the end of the day, we've been doing this a long time.
Right.
The market goes up, one group is disenfranchised. The market goes down, another group is disenfranchised.
Right.
And it's sort of like desperate people do desperate things. And, we made a commitment. Now the market has disincentivized me to honor that commitment. There's no structure to keep that from happening other than coffee contracts, right? These sort of handshake agreements, they don't hold up. There isn't a sort of I don't even know how to say it. There isn't a coalescing force that basically says, okay, we will all agree that this is the way we're going to do business together, right? It's just a lot of individual actors who are, it's the starfish model at this point. They're making a difference, but only at the scale that there's collective businesses together.
Yeah.
Right. So let's switch gears because we try and keep this show about how the average roaster should think about the market. Right, or think about the sort of state of the business that they're trying to do today, right? So one of the things that you and I talk about a lot is resiliency. How we need to power through. I mean, 2025 was at the end of 2025. My show was let's talk about the list of calamities that happened in 2025 and how any single one of these would have made for a bad year, and we got them all together. Yeah. But the reason that I think ourselves and our customers were able to do well is that there was some grit and some ability to sort of power through that. So, as you think about going 2026 and forward, how do you think we model that resiliency?
Well, I think right now with the lack of venture capital and flooding our industry, it's going to require. Well, when you and I got into coffee, if you could spell the word coffee, you can make money. It was so easy. The barrier to entry was so low, and now the bar is extremely high. You need your skill sets firing on all cylinders. Yeah. So if you don't have a strong financial acumen, you need to get it right now. If you don't have a strong sense of understanding where the opportunities are and spotting the trends in the market changing quickly, you need to find the person that can help you or learn it quickly. I think that there is going to be this kind of push-pull where sometimes it makes the most – like you and I both play poker, so sometimes the best strategy in a tournament is to sit and do nothing for a little while and let people kill each other off, and then you can come in. There's going to be some of that, sitting back and waiting, and then moving quickly. So kind of hurry up and wait strategy is going to be happening a lot. Prime example of that is late 2025, you had tariffs in Brazil being the most extreme example, and Brazil being the backbone of many U.S. coffee companies' blends, they had to sit and wait and watch their stocks, if they had stocks, dwindle down to like fumes. And then all of a sudden the tariffs drop. You needed to rush in and buy immediately. Now, I think what was brilliant that you had done was you said, hey, I want to put a bunch of Brazilian coffee in Canada because I think eventually they're going to drop, and we'll just throw it right over the border and we'll be ready to sell. And that's exactly what you did. And that coffee, I think we sold it in
a week.
Minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just gone.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of strategies that are going to help you get an edge over your competition. I think this idea of buying and selling businesses right now is not going to happen.
Yeah.
If you're for sale, you're going to be selling at a loss. If you're buying, you should be buying at crazy bargains. You're doing somebody a favor by buying their business if that's what you're doing. And I think having a real sense of profitability, how to maximize the profitability of your business is going to be key, because every dollar you're going to need for, Phil Maloney from Pete's Coffee, a buyer that I've known for a long time, he uses this story a lot. He says, I'll buy coffee from Papua New Guinea and I need it by a certain time. And then inevitably I hear, there was a mudslide and the road's closed. I can't get the coffee to port. And every time I needed something, there's always a mudslide. And what's your mudslide? We all have our mudslides. Yeah. And in roasting, it's, a tariff. Shipping rates go up. Interest rates are climbing. It's always something. This idea that the coffee industry is like other industries where it's just steady business all the time. I've never seen it in my 35 years. No. There's always something happening. Last year was an extreme example of that. But I think 2026 still right now you have while the market is low, and it's all low based on this idea of this big bumper crop in Brazil, supply's tight in Guatemala, Mexico's pretty much sold out, Central America's tight, the Brazilian big flooded crop isn't in yet. So coffee's short, and Sumatra with the flooding there, coffee is not hitting the wall. It should have shipped in October. It hasn't even shipped yet. Mm-hmm. For people that rely on that origin, they're in big trouble right now. Everybody vacuumed up the existing supply. Yeah. So the resilience of learning how to pivot quickly, learning how to change your blends to mimic coffees that may not be available. That's going to be key.
Yeah, being able to say yes at a time when the right decision is in front of you is right. Knowing your business well enough to be able to say yes quickly to an opportunity. I think that's been the thing I preach the most is, are you in a position where you understand the variables enough that when the best possible option comes your way, you can say yes to it? Yeah. Because it's usually fleeting.
And I think that point is you couldn't make that point stronger. This year especially when the tariffs dropped and Brazil's were available, number of times I'd have roasters say, what's the price on that Brazil? Okay, let me think about it.
And keep waiting. Yeah.
And they come back a week later. Okay, we're ready to do it. Well, that coffee is gone. Yeah. It was gone 20 minutes after we talked. Right. Like you need to be able to make a decision quickly here. Yeah. And it's not like I'm trying to give you the hard sell or
I was pulling traders off of each other. No, I sold it. No, I sold it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that roasters need to understand that when your trader, whether you believe it or not, wants you to succeed. They have the best interests. Your interests are at the top of mind for them. And when they give you advice like that, it's not to pressure you into a sale. Nobody's making a living selling like that. It's because they don't want you to be without. And when you're without, you're in trouble. And yeah, these people, when this happens to them, they get very angry. And it's like you need to be angry at yourself because you needed to make a quick decision. And you're gonna have to make decisions quickly when we have these moments come up.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, Mark, here because we don't do a long show. We're not a long format show, right? So we're gonna close out here.
Yeah, I was ready for a long conversation with you, me and Mike, and casual breaking down an idea for an hour.
Well, we were out for my birthday the night we had it then, so
yeah, true.
We just did not record it. But up to 3 films or books or movies that you film and movie, same thing, but you know what I mean. That you would recommend to people who are in the coffee business.
Wow, that's a great question. Well, I think All About Coffee is the Bible. You have to read that once to get a sense of what we're about. So I think that's the number one book. I think, a movie. Because I want to throw a movie in there. I don't know if I could come up with a movie that makes sense there. The Howard Schultz book. What was the one that he wrote? I read that.
Put Your Heart Into It?
Yeah, Put Your Heart Into It.
Pour Your Heart Into It.
Pour Your Heart Into It. Yeah. I thought that had a lot of sound advice because at that time when that book came out, he was building something very interesting, and there's a lot that you could borrow from that book to build whatever idea you have in coffee. I thought it was very sound advice. And, movie. I'm trying to think of one.
Think Eddie Murphy.
Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, I mean, yeah, if you think you're going to corner the frozen concentrated orange juice market, go right ahead. I don't think that has any relevance to our industry anymore, but that's a comical I was thinking The Big Short initially. Like that was where I was thinking you could – is the Trading Places modern times, non-humorous. But that would probably be my third.
The Big Short is great because it takes the same approach that I try to with complicated subjects. Mm-hmm. It's like we're going to tell a story. We're going to take a small piece of it and tell a story to the point where you understand it, and then we're going to use that story to tell the next story. The world of finance is absolutely wackadoodle, and people will do absolutely whatever they need to do to make money and without thinking about the greater good.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the finance world like I look at the way people viewed adults when they were children. It's like the adults have it all figured out, and then you become an adult. And you're like, no, we're winging it. We're doing what we need to do to survive. There is no – we didn't pick up some tome that taught us how to be an adult. So,
Mark, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, guys. You've been listening to Coffee Memo with Rob Stephen, part of the Kavoya Coffee Podcasting Network, where the executive producer is me, Mike Ferguson. Our theme music for Coffee Memo is Jealous Dogs by The Pretenders. If you know, you know. If you don't know, ask.
Black coffee.
If you've enjoyed this or any show on the Kavoya Coffee Podcasting Network, please do all the things. Like, rate, subscribe, follow, tell your friends. Right now, I'll wait. You'll find a link to our short listener survey in the show notes, and if you haven't already, please take the survey.
Please, I'm begging you.
Finally, remember two things. You can always email me with thoughts, questions, ideas, and recipes at mike.ferguson@kavoya.com, and Black Coffee is performed by the one and only Ella Fitzgerald. This has been a CCPN production.